We're recording.
All right. Hey, everybody, welcome. It's Monday night. It's live broadcasting from Peru tonight and Texas. So we're so glad to have you. I'm so excited for tonight because I really enjoy all of this work from Eric Worre's book, Go Pro. And we've had some amazing presenters that have done such a great job, showing us his intention behind this book. And I wanted to go over just 2 or 3 things from chapter 3, that skill number 3 that we kind of jumped over before we introduced tonight's speaker. And in skill number 3, it's about presenting product and opportunity. And the number one thing that Eric says, this is like straight to my heart. He said, you better learn how to tell your story. And what I loved about the GoPro book is that he completely highlighted the same path that we have been training on for years. Your story starts with your past, your pain, your discomfort. And then you get into the present, the solution, the results, because you found Juice Plus or the business. And then your story, obviously a lot of emotion with the past, and then your future vision. And not too long ago, I did a training on your story, and we talked about the list of emotions from Brene Brown, and that not to be afraid to use words that convey emotion in your story, because that's what people will remember. The second thing from skill 3 is that, my friends, remember that you are the messenger. You are not the message. And to let go of your attachment to outcome. And if you're only prospecting 3 or 4 people, it's hard to let go of attachment to outcome, right? We're attached. But if you're prospecting 15, 20, 50 people, it's a lot easier to let go of that attachment to outcome, because you know that some of it is going to pop and come to fruition. And the third thing that he talked about was that third-party validation. So if I was to ask each of you, like, what's your favorite tools? What are your favorite videos? When you're plugged into someone and they have a specific need, are you using the recordings Facebook page with all of those great stories, plugged into the tools? And of course, the most underused tool in the Juice Plus business is, drum roll, your upline. Putting your upline in front of people to tell their story. And that's the most underutilized tool in our industry. So Eric said in this chapter that the people who stand in the front of the room make the most money. The people who train make the most money. And I know that to be true because for 15 years, I have asked people that I think have some talent, some potential to share and train, and every single one of them has risen up in the marketing plan. So I'm going to tell you, speak to your upline. When can I train? Can I train on the product? Can I train on the business? You develop confidence, you grow, all right, your skills expand. So being in the front of the room. Speaking of being in the front of the room, growth and expansion, our speaker tonight is really special. So I have asked National Marketing Director Stephanie Fletch, who was just in the hot seat at my house in the front of the room, to please introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Terry. You guys, I am so honored to be introducing our next speaker, or our speaker for tonight, not our next one. She's coming to you live from Lima, Peru. Obviously, this girl has a soft spot in my heart because we have been friends and teammates and now business partners for, I don't even know how many years, for, 14 years? We've known each other for a very long time. And she's an amazing woman. She lives in Lima, Peru, and is a full-time missionary. She's also a homeschool mom. And she has literally grown this business from a country that cannot get product nor team in that country. And so if we all make excuses in different ways, I'm telling you, she has a lot more than we can ever probably make. And so she has stayed positive. She has loved on people, and I am just super excited to hear her speak tonight. So Alison, take it away.
Hey, Steph, though, hang on.
Oh, wait. Wait, sorry. I got so excited by introducing her. Might I say that I am introducing a brand new senior sales coordinator.
Drop the mic. Woo!
She just got her a fat bonus and all kinds of stuff. And I'm super excited because she's my first like leadership position in my entire business. And so this is a huge deal for her. It's a huge deal for me. And I'm just beyond excited. I just got too excited because we're introducing on the next call too. We're just so excited.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right.
Thank
Alison,
you.
it's all yours, honey.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited. Okay, I'm really hoping that I'm going to do this screen sharing thing. So let me see if I can't do this. And we're going to pull up what I got here. My husband was like trying to walk me through this earlier. Y'all tell me when it pops up. Good. Okay. Let me see if I can't do the full screen here. Okay. We good?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm really excited. Thank you, Terry, for asking me to talk on this book because I have been wanting to read this book. So when she asked me that if I would do this, I was like, yes, a reason to read the book and to really sit down and dig into it. And first of all, I just want to say it's so easy to read, y'all. I've got 4 kids, and reading 2 sentences in a book puts me to sleep, like if it's my own pleasure reading, right? Because I'm just like tired all the time. But this book is super easy to read. The words are kind of big, like it's just kind of one of those books that, it's not intimidating. And he puts a ton of practical advice in it. And so it's not one of those that you're just going to get bogged down with. So let's just get going because I don't want to go over tonight. I know we all have calls after this. So I originally thought I would really want to talk about that because Terry said, what skill kind of speaks to you? And I thought, the helping your new distributor get started, because I love to encourage people and stuff. And then I started reading and I put chapter 4. I don't know. Maybe it's not chapter 4, it's skill 4. Anyway, and I was like, no, I need to teach about this. I need to train about this because this is actually what I need to work on. So it's been really helpful to me. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. So basically he has 4 concepts when he talks about skill number 4, and following up with your prospects is, the umbrella, the skill. And these 4 concepts are kind of how we learn how to do the follow-up really well. So concept number 1 is that following up is doing what you said you would do. So he's got several things in here that I think many of us have probably heard before, because we have such amazing leaders that are reading these books and training us from the training that they've gotten. So that should not surprise you. You're on a really fabulous team. But hopefully I can highlight some things that maybe you haven't specifically heard before if you've not read this book. So the bottom line is, if you say you're going to call at 3 p.m., call at 3 p.m. If you say you're going to write back. If you say you're going to check on their grandmother, or I recently, unfortunately, dealt with somebody who was a customer whose child passed away, and you cannot forget to follow up with those people. Life is happening for our customers and our potential customers. And it's not just about sending messages. It's really and truly about getting in and knowing what's going on in their life and asking. I only knew because I asked questions, and I'm not perfect at that, but God just put it on me that moment and said, ask her some questions like, why is she canceling the order? And I asked, and she told me. So it's a really big deal that we follow up with people, that we keep engaged. Okay. So Eric Worre, I'm going to just call him Eric like he's my friend because it's just easier. So Eric tells this story in the book about his dad who has this realtor. He had this real estate business. And this was before Eric did any national marketing stuff. And so he was in the office. I guess he helped his dad out. And his dad had an appointment, a meeting with another businessman at like 10 that morning. And so his dad wasn't there yet, but Eric was. And so the man comes in like 9:55 and Eric greets him and he sits down, and like at 10 on the dot, what happens? This man gets up and he says, well, son, it's 10 o'clock and your dad's not here. So have him call me if he'd like to reschedule our meeting. And Eric's like shocked. He was like, I assure you he's going to be here like any minute now. And he's thinking he came all this way for a meeting and he's leaving at 10 o'clock. And the man said something that he, says has stuck with him. He's writing in his book now, right? He said, son, either you're early or you're late, and he's late and my time is valuable. Have him call me if you'd like to reschedule. And he was like, wow. So basically those two middle points there are the lessons that he got from that people respect you when you do what you say you're going to do. And even bigger than that, I think, not bigger than that, but a point that I hadn't thought about before is that people really respect you when you respect your own time. If you're just, if you seem like a person who either one has no time for anybody or two is like saying you're going to do these things, but then, I can't because I've got this going on. You just look frazzled. So respect your own time and value that, and people will see. So basically your job is to just be this kind of a person. So that's concept number one. Okay. Here we go. Concept number two. So this is the one that really kind of made me think, I think maybe I should train on this chapter. His concept is the only reason to have an exposure with someone is to set up the next exposure. Wow. So what does he mean by exposure? That just means anytime you're interacting with somebody, anytime, you're messaging them, calling them, any kind of communication that you have with them. So the reason for exposures are not to just get the sale is what he's saying. And of course, he's speaking to people in all sorts of companies. So he's saying that the reason for an exposure is to set up the next exposure with them. And sometimes we might think, but, shouldn't we just close the deal right now? Aren't we wanting them to sign up right now? And there is a time and a place for that. And he talks about that a little bit later. But he says, if you're going to understand how to set up the next exposure, you have to understand how to handle your exposures that you're having. So the worst way he says to end an exposure is, so what do you think? And I have said that multiple times. So we've got to stop asking, what do you think? So the reason why we've got to stop asking that is because what Eric Worre says is that it just invites them to be critical. It invites them to say, well, I don't know, the price seems a little high, or I don't really, they ask all these sorts of questions that they're not asking about their cereal boxes, but we all know the story. So don't invite them to do that by saying, what do you think? And really and truly, this is about a mindset change. You have to stop thinking that you're just getting the prospect on the first exposure, that last point there, to keeping the process alive, because the whole point is for you to educate people and for them to understand what you're trying to teach them. So then you might say, okay, so how do you do this, Eric? Because that's what I'm always thinking. This is all good and well, but how do you actually play this out? So he's got a lot of really great tips in the book, and this is why you need to read it, because we don't have time tonight to go over every little part, but a couple he's got here, and we're going to go over those. So when you ask somebody, when you call them at the time that you said that you would call them, and you say, well, have you had a chance to look over what I sent you, to review the material, to listen to the audio, or, did you go to the event, or whatever it was, like maybe you couldn't go with them. They're going to say one of two things, no or yes. And if they say no, you're not going to show any disappointment. And this seems really obvious, but sometimes, things get lost in translation when you're just typing things out. Sometimes a tone in your voice could just sound a little bit like disapproving. And he says, like, that is a killer. Okay. Do not show that you're disappointed in the person. That they don't have this on their mind all day long. We do, because it's our business, but they don't. So we're not going to show them that we're disappointed. And we're going to just say, like we all know, right? Oh, life gets busy. I'm sure we all say this. Okay. I know life gets busy. When do you think you could look at it for sure, for sure? And I was like, wait, hold up. I had to read that again, because I was like, that sounds a little bit rude. For sure, for sure. When do you think you could look at that for sure, is what I was hearing. But what he says is basically, it's not really about those words. Like, you don't have to say for sure, but he's been using that for decades and it's working for him. So if that seems a little harsh to you, go and practice it in the mirror and get to where you can say it to people, because we're trying to learn from somebody who's done their job well, and he's done his job well. So I'm going to start using this language, and I think that we all should, because I think that people won't take it rudely as long as we're doing all of these other things, right? We're being kind to them. We're not showing our disappointment. We're relating to them. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So if they say yes, we're all excited, but you can't just, I mean, you got to know what to do when they're saying yes. And you want to ask intelligent questions. Okay. So the best follow-up question, he says, is, what did you like best? Okay. We're not going to ask, what do you think? We're going to say, what did you like best? Because that's going to give us a little bit of an idea of where they're at, right? If they say product, then obviously we're going to send them more information about the product. If they say financial freedom, we're going to send them more information about the opportunity, right? So another question you can say is, on a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being, oh, y'all, your pictures are covering it up. I can't even read it. Here we go. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being 0 interest and 10 being ready to get started right away, where are you right now? So now I got to figure out how to get y'all back. Oh, y'all, hold on. Here we go. Okay. I lowered y'all's pictures because I couldn't see my words, and then I couldn't see any of you guys, and it felt really funny. So basically you want to know where they're at. So if you're going to ask this, he says any number above 1 is great. So work with it. Okay. All the point of this question is then to figure out how you can get them to a higher number. So you're just going to ask them, okay, what can I send you? What information would you like best? Do you like to read things? Do you like videos? Stephanie's really good at, she's taught me that well. You know, make sure you send them what they're going to look at. Because Steph is like, I don't listen to video. I don't watch videos. So if somebody sends me that, I'm not going to watch it probably. So make sure you know who the person is and what they want, and then figure out how you can get them to a higher number. Because again, you're just trying to educate them. You're trying to move them to the next exposure that you're going to have with them. And you're not necessarily trying in that moment to get them on the product, especially if they're, you know, at a 2 or a 3. That's not probably going to happen in that exposure. Okay, concept number 3. Oops, just a second here. Okay, it takes an average of 4 to 6 exposures for the average person to join. So that means, you know, some people it'll take more, some people it'll take less. Obviously, we all know what average means. And the average Joe, though, it's going to take 4 to 6 times. When you don't understand that the only reason for one exposure is to go to the next exposure, then often you're just putting too much pressure on you and the prospect. And then that's when you kind of start to damage the relationships, and none of us want that. So another thing he talks about is this, sometimes people have this idea and they're like, well, some will, some won't. So what? It's fine. I'll go to the next person, right? And when you do that, he's saying that basically you're shutting doors too soon, because obviously if you don't understand 4 to 6 exposures and you have that mindset, you're saying, okay, well, they didn't want that. And so that's a door that you could have walked through. And the worst of that is that you really and truly might just damage your friendship with them, because they are like, look, she's written me once in a year and it was just about Juice Plus. She clearly doesn't care about anything else, or he doesn't care about anything else, you know? And so we don't want that. I know none of us want that. So if you listened in the first week of this series, Rachel Barkley talked about the different kinds of people that you can be that Eric Worre says, and there's the posers, the amateurs, and the professionals. And so obviously we want to be the professionals. So he says a professional understands that it's going to take 4 to 6 exposures, because the goal is education and understanding. You're trying to build trust, strengthen your friendship with that person, and then you want to be somebody that's enjoyable to work with, and they're going to see that if you treat them nicely, and it's possible that they're going to want to work with you. So he says, keep your urgency, but you have to have patience. And that's those, you know, it feels like an oxymoron, but it is possible. Okay, this quote here I'm going to read. It says, posers prospect someone once and then they move on. Amateurs prospect someone through several exposures over time. Professionals condense those exposures into the shortest time possible. So concept number 4 is to condense the exposures for better results. So this was something kind of new to me, because I mean, I knew that, but he's like super condensed. He suggests that you don't just, you know, send a video, and then a week later, ask how they're doing. And then a month later, invite them to an event. And then a month later, I don't know, you have them listen to a webinar. You do all those things in like a week if you can. Now, some people, they don't answer you for 6 months, so that's impossible, right, with them. But once they answer you, you're going to just jump on that train, and you're going to see how much are they willing to engage you right there in a span of a few days. I would say 7 to 10 days, because the more you're talking to them in a shorter amount of time, they're going to be able to focus on that, and life's not going to happen, right, in between all those exposures. And so it's really important to make sure that you are reading what people are putting off in their messages, or when you call them, or if you're, in a one-on-one event with them, or having coffee or whatever, and you try to condense all of that. So, what do you do then? Go to our next. He ends his chapter with questions and objections, and that's a big deal, because we all have people who ask us questions, and we all have people who object to things. And he just says, remember that it's very natural for people to do that. And oftentimes, I literally laughed out loud at this, but oftentimes he says people are just asking those things because they want to sound smart. I was like, that is so true. I mean, have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and you're like, I have no clue what they are talking about, but I need to sound like I do. So people are asking questions when, like I said, they're not even asking that about their cereal that they're eating every day. So they don't really care. They just start feeling like they need to sound smart. Okay. So don't let that intimidate you. You don't need to be intimidated by that. Remember, what's your goal? It's educating and making sure that they understand. And so exposure after exposure after exposure. And it's sometimes a slow process, not for those people, obviously, that'll do it all in 1 week, like he's suggesting. But our goal is not to win any arguments with them. So set, your ego or your pride or whatever you want to call it aside. Even set aside what you know and just meet them where they're at. Okay? Let me shut my door really quickly. Sorry, I think I have a child that's up sick. Okay, so basically what he's saying is you have got to make sure that you are prepared for those things, but you don't want anybody to feel like they're in an argument with you. Okay, so he says basically we need to focus on concepts. And so he ends with the concept of empathy. So there are tactics, he says, for being able to play out this concept in your relationships and in your interactions with people. But the concept is overarching, and it can apply in anything that you're doing with people. So the concept here is empathy, and it's huge. Okay, guys, our leaders teach us this really well. And I feel like this is something that likely all of us know, but sometimes I think we just forget about it, that we have to relate to people. It's really important to make sure that they understand that I understand. So something that I really enjoyed from, is it Jill Herman? I always forget. I listened to her on one of the pajama regionals, I guess 2 pajama regionals ago. And she brought up this feel, felt, found, and Eric, where he talks about that in his book. So you're saying, I know how you feel. I felt that same way, but here's what I found. And Terry, I think, was just talking about this maybe on one of her calls, or maybe a live video that you did, Terry. And it's super important that you practice, because you absolutely need to. In fact, he talks, I think maybe in the chapter that Terry was talking about memorizing your script. Okay. He memorized what he's going to say to people. You can do this with questions and objections too. You can memorize what you're going to say. If you feel really nervous, practice. He just says, you got to practice this, because people are going to come to you with these thoughts. So the bottom line is, if you're willing to do all of these things, you are going to see growth. And if you're willing to read books like this, you are going to see growth. So that's why I love that Terry's doing this series, because I just told her, you know, there's a lot of people that wouldn't have time to read this, and I hadn't had time until she talked with me, and she's doing us all a great service that we're going through this on Monday nights, but you'll do yourself an even bigger service if you'll buy the book and read the whole thing, because it really is good, and it's got a whole lot more than what I've talked about and what they've been able to talk about in the last few weeks. And I think that you'll find that it kind of, for me, what it's done is it's lit a fire in me, and it's like, okay, I need to be doing these things, and I feel prepared now, and I've got some new wording. He's got fabulous verbiage in the book, and it's just really all around, it's really a great book. So thank you, Terry, for letting me talk about this.
Oh my goodness. Hang on. Am I muted?
No.
No. Okay. Well, Alison, for sure. You did an amazing job. And I love that you're on fire. This book has prompted incredible emotion from you, and it shows in this presentation. Also, you are so deserving of reaching this new level of senior sales coordinator. And for those people that don't know, Stephanie mentioned a big fat bonus. Would you share with people, what is that big fat bonus? This check that you're going to get in the mail? What is that?
Oh, $2,500. And I start getting a Christmas bonus.
Okay, so $2,500 check for having made senior sales coordinator. Plus, this year you'll receive your holiday $250 for being a senior sales coordinator. Guys, it's a big deal and so deserving. And so let's give it up for Alison. Thank you so much. I mean, coming to us live from Peru. Isn't that amazing? All right, guys, it's time for you to jump on your calls, or if you're East Coast, go to bed. And thanks for being with us tonight. I'll see you next week. I appreciate you. I love you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Peace and blessings.